statistics, so I know like MATLAB and R, and I taught myself Python, and I've never taken a
Nice.
programming class.
Nice.
I have like little to no CS experience. Like everything on HackerRake is something I taught myself, not from a
That's
class.
awesome.
um, uh,
No, I love that. That's in the some I would say half of the best programmers I've ever met are self-taught. There's no there's no skew in one direction or another, whether you get a CS degree or you learned watching somebody on YouTube. There's no skew. About half of them come from I taught myself, and the other half, have that background in the CS degree. It's incredible that you can do it either way now and be unreal good at programming.
or just even like have the acumen or the know-how, and it's more about like application than having that degree. I mean, in data science, it's still important to have that degree and or be published or be able to point to projects that are completed. Uh,
Yep.
but starting out, you can go from a boot camp into it, and it's kind of okay now.
Yeah, and I think we're finally stratified enough. We didn't used to be. When I first started out, I had to actually do full stack data science.
Hmm.
And I was lucky because I had the background to pull it off, but it was a lot simpler when I was first starting. There wasn't the need for hardcore data engineering best practices or ML engineering best practices. ML ops was so much easier at the very beginning because everything we did was so much simpler.
Hmm.
Even if it looked more complex on the surface, what was going on under the covers, so much simpler. People didn't rely on it as much as they do now. So when something broke, it was kind of like no one figured it out. No one knew. So I had a week, 2 weeks to fix models, retrain them, redeploy. It was no big deal. Everybody's just like, oh, that stopped working? Really? I didn't notice.
uh, yeah, I have been there, unfortunately or fortunately.
It's, I don't think it's a bad thing. We were there at the very beginning, and it was the Wild West. Well, of course it was. No one knew what we were doing. I didn't even know what I was called until 2013. I was making up job titles.
And making up job titles. I don't think MLE was even like machine learning engineering. MLE was like, I think, maximalized likelihood estimate. If you said MLE to me like even 7 or 8 years ago, I wasn't gonna be like, oh yeah,
Yep.
that's a type of engineering. Uh, so it's kind of, I like to think of it like how computer science was back in what, like the 60s and 70s. There was no textbook. There was no software engineer and like, this is the way that it is. We're kind of learning things as we go forward. I have a cute little lecture that I like. It basically says like some people classify techniques by the decade they were created in. Some people classify techniques by like the number of neuron layers that you have in it, and basically at the end of the day, we should just like say the technique we're using. And if you're going to communicate with another data scientist, say like I did a neural network instead of being like I did deep learning. Just because like it's it's a sales buzzword, at the end of the day, whether it's deep learning or artificial learning or machine learning. Those all kind of feel like sales terms, and I think I even did this to prove a point. You can open up textbooks, pull the definitions out, and they conflict. And I know you teach a course, don't you?
Yep.
Have you ever
Yeah, I teach, but
noticed that, or am I just off in my own little corner?
no, when I first started, and this was back, I don't teach data scientists to be data scientists anymore.
Hmm.
I used to, and now there's hundreds of people, thousands of people doing it. So I'm no longer necessary. Now I teach strategy and leadership and product management and how to make money with data. So that's the side I'm teaching now. But it's exactly that. When I first started out, this was the thing that always made me laugh was the economist background versus the engineer background. The two groups would never use the same terms for anything. It was never the same, and it just was frustrating. I would have one side saying something, and I'm like, no, you gotta, yes, that's right, but Let's not use loss anymore. Let's use something that's a little bit more. No, no, but loss. It's like, oh God, I get it. Economics is it rules the world. Can we just agree on something else now? Can we please use a different language? Because loss means something totally different for us.
So in statistics, one hot encoding is called dummy variable coding. And
Wait, I can't hear you. Sorry, I lost you for a
oh,
second.
can you hear me?
Yeah, no, it just got quiet for a second.
So in statistics, one hot encoding is called dummy variable encoding.
Mm-hmm.
So I told someone that they needed to dummy variable encode their data, which I thought was like, just you Google it. And they
Yep.
thought I was insulting their intelligence. Like, got horribly angry at me. And I was just like mystified. They had to like come back to me the next day and they told me that they got upset because they thought I was insulting their intelligence. And I was like, one hot encoding I learned that day is the same as dummy variable encoding. Um, but yeah.
The language part of this is really, yeah, it is really funny. And the backgrounds that people come from are so territorial when it comes to naming conventions that it's almost guaranteed to be an argument. And especially it was right around 2017, 2018, where a lot of science, hard sciences disciplines, and I don't know if you saw this or not, they started getting really angry at data scientists because we started reinventing and sort of appropriating stuff that they had for decades, sometimes longer. There was a point where somebody in the data engineering world was reinventing ontologies, and the knowledge management and information science part of the world, oh, they lost their minds. It was just a free for all. Anyone that was talking about these new concepts just got beaten up on Twitter and on LinkedIn and in conferences. And it was just, but it's been like that because data science we have appropriated every other scientific domain's work and said, yes, we invented that. And I think it hit the tipping point in 2017 and 2018 where they just said, no, that's enough. Okay, no, no more. We will not give you one more thing. You're done. You're cut off.
I mean, I don't think my professors from my graduate program are very proud of the fact I became a data scientist instead of being staying a statistician. Because I was a good statistician, and I was like, but I want to play with more data. Uh,
I
yeah.
want to actually use statistics for something people care about.
I want to affect and have like my model utilized in day-to-day practice. I mean, it is. I did, go the route of like p-value and stuff, and published
Mm-hmm.
articles and for a while, but I don't think anyone read anything I did except the other people that needed to cite it in order to build on it. But like, I don't think anyone was like, "Oh yeah, this is great reading material."
Everything I published between 2012 and 2015, I can't find. I mean, I Google stuff that I've published, I can't find it. It's like it's just disappeared from the face of the earth. So I have the exact same experience. I went the traditional academic publishing route, and guess what? I can't even Google my stuff. That's how bad it was.
So the secret I think is that you get a research gate, and then as soon as I got the article, I'd put it like officially published with like all the citation and everything, put it onto ResearchGate and make it free access. Because as the author, you're allowed to offer free access, or they people would request it, and then you just like hit a button
Yep.
that says like give them free access. Because I don't think you can let it be like a free for all on the article for legal reasons. I'm not 100% sure, but that's the only way that I still have all my stuff is I uploaded it, or it's on some external somewhere lost.
I've got it on a thumb drive someplace. I mean, that's how old some of these things are, where we're still using thumb drives. Yeah, it's probably on a thumb drive in this office, I hope, somewhere. Somebody might want to see it someday because I can't find literally, I Google it, cannot find it.
I get to feel extra old because for my thesis I used floppy disks,
Hoorah.
but I
Yes.
I am not that old. But I get to feel old
I'm not
facing
going to
it.
tell you, the technology that I have encountered in my life, but I've seen some backward stuff. You're in good company.
Thanks for listening to Sarah in Tech. Feel free to email me at sarah@sarahintech.net or follow me on Instagram at sarahintech. Hope you enjoyed listening.